Okay. So again, here we're looking at these forms of government that we will perceive, or that are perceived based on these principles that we've articulated, i.e. that principle of consent, and being able to fulfill the purpose of government as being legitimate. So a guy by the name of Joseph Schumter, he defined representative democracy this way. He said, it is the institutional arrangement for arriving at political decisions in which leaders acquire power by the means of a competitive struggle for the people's votes. So in representative democracy, we don't rule ourselves on every issue. On most issues, we don't. Instead, we elect representatives to do that for that. And the way we elect these representatives is with this competitive struggle for the people's votes. Now, the legend has it that Benjamin Franklin, as he left the Constitutional Convention in 1787, a woman stopped him and asked, "What kind of government have you given us?" She said. And according to the legend, Franklin responded, "A republic, madam, if you can keep it." That's what he said. A republic if you can keep it. What does that mean? So republic is just that. A republic is a collection of states, independent states, in this case, the states of the United States. And they derive their power from the people. They derive their power from the people. But the people have to be vigilant. They have to be vigilant about keeping their leaders in check. And what did he mean? What did Franklin mean, if they can keep it? Well, they had obviously talked, and Franklin was a smart guy. He knew of places like Athens and Rome and Florence, who were republics, and they had collapsed. And so we, as a people, have to be vigilant and active if we are to maintain control of these representatives. Now, the nice thing about representative democracy is it's just that. It is representative. We elect individuals who represent us, not the country as a whole, but represent us. That's why we have them elected based on where we and they live. So they're going to represent us. So there is consent. There is consent. It is the people who are ruling through their representative, through their representatives. That's what a republic is. People rule through their elected representatives. So it provides for that consent that we talk so much about. So the justifications for representative democracy, they overcome some of the issues of the participatory democracy and democratic centralism. Of course, with democratic centralism, representative democracy overcomes the issue that there's consent, where there isn't consent in democratic centralism. It overcomes the issue with participatory democracy, and one of the problems with participatory democracy, particularly in the modern nation state, it is impractical for the people to rule today because of limitations of time, information, energy, interest, and expertise. For instance, what kind of plane should go in or what kind of jet engine should go in a 747? You and I care. We care from the perspective we don't want it falling out of the sky. But we don't care enough, almost all of us, to research this and pressure our government to require that they put that Boeing, or whoever else making these planes, put in a certain type of jet engine. We just don't have the energy. We don't have the information. There's limitations on our time, and most of us don't have the interest, and even far more of us don't have the expertise. So one of the justifications for representative democracy is it deals with all those issues. So you have an elected group of people who will find the time, who will have the information and the energy and the expertise to be able to do these things that we can't do for ourselves. Furthermore, it also deals with what political philosophers call fleeting passions. So when we rule ourselves in a direct democracy, when something bad happens, we want justice and we want it right now. For instance, I don't know, remember how many years it's been now, but it's probably been somewhere in the neighborhood of 25, 30 years. A little girl by the name of Polly Class, spelled with a K, I believe, had a birthday party at her house. She had some of her friends over. That night, she was stolen out of her bedroom window by some guy, raped and murdered. The police pulled over a car. For some reason, they had the guy open the trunk, and there's this little girl dead in the trunk. They brought him, of course, to jail. They arrested him, brought him to jail. He was arraigned in a couple days, and the prosecution argued against bail. And when they argued against bail, they made a very interesting argument. They had his rap sheet, the guy's rap sheet, and I don't remember his name. Mercifully, I don't remember his name. They had his rap sheet printed out on the computer paper at the time, which was all connected together. So one piece, it fed into the computer by rollers, and you had to tear these sheets apart. And so they printed his rap sheet out on this paper, and they didn't tear the sheets of paper apart. Prosecuting attorney just got up and he said to the judge, "Your Honor, the people argue against bail." And he let this rap sheet fall to the floor, just all attached together, fall to the floor. This guy had committed so many crimes. He was obviously a flight risk, and they won. Now, if we were a direct democracy, you find this little girl's body in the trunk of some guy's car. What do you want to do? You just want to string him up right then. Well, what if he just found her body? What if he just found her body and was trying to take it back to the police? We murdered the wrong guy. And so one of the justifications for representative democracy, there's this process. The events that happen don't happen to the individuals directly. There's some removal. And so because of this, it deals with this issue of fleeting passions. It lets calmer heads prevail, lets passions cool. And so that prevents these kind of poor reactionary decisions that can happen in a direct democracy. Now, this does not mean that everything that happens in a representative democracy is good. One of the negative connotations of representative democracy is who actually rules society. So if we elect individuals to represent us, who are the type of individuals that we are electing? This, of course, assumes a fair process as well. But who's going to actually be elected? And it turns out that people who get elected are elites. The elites of society. What is an elite? So elite politics are policies that are formed by individuals or groups of individuals with a disproportionate share of some political capital. So whatever that disproportionate share of political capital is, it may be a number of things. So you look at me, I'm an adjunct professor at Citrus College. Am I an elite? No, I am not an elite. You look at a professor of political science at Harvard University who has written a number of books about the discipline. He may be an elite. You look at Arnold Schwarzenegger, an actor turned politician. Why was he able to even run for office? Because he had a disproportionate share of some valued political capital. In this case, it was name recognition, familiarity with the public knew who he was. He had cash to run. These are the type of things that matter. These are the type of people that have this tend to get elected. You again, not to give you another example of someone from Hollywood turned politician, but I mean it just comes to mind. Donald Trump. He was in that Apprentice show, and he was obviously somebody before that, but that also helped propel him to become a household name in the United States. And so when he decided to run for president, people knew who he was. Some had opinions about him, some liked him, some didn't. but he was able to run for a political office because he was an elite. So an elite can be lots of things. Like, for instance, John F. Kennedy. John F. Kennedy's father was somebody. They had lots of money. That money allowed him to run, to become a senator. Access to the media. If I were to call for a news conference, how many people would show up? How many reporters would show up for that news conference that I've called for? Not a single one. On the other hand, in 1982, a guy by the name of Michael Jackson, and this was at the height of his career, told reporters that he would be, or his people told reporters that he would be at a given location and would answer questions for 5 minutes. 300 reporters came. 300! And he answered questions for 5 minutes. He was an elite. He had access to the media, had lots of money, had name recognition. So the issue here is, who are these elites? And it's these elites who get elected, not just your average Joe citizen. So this becomes problematic in this representative democracy. Now, there are 4 theories that purport to explain elite behavior. So in other words, if in our democracy, in this representative democracy we have, it's elites, the negative connotation, it's elites who govern. What theories are there that explain elite behavior? So what we want to do is we want to take a look at these 4 theories, discuss each one, then make some concluding comments about this. So the Marxist theory, we'll start with Marx. So Marxist theory, of course, is articulated by Karl Marx. And this is what he had to say. Government, whatever its outward form, is merely a reflection of the underlying economic forces, primarily the pattern of ownership of the means of production. So Marx is around at the time when the Industrial Revolution is just really taking off. And these captains of industry had enormous sums of money. They would use that money to sponsor candidates, and with that, attempt to control the government. So look at that definition there. Whatever government, whatever its outward form, is merely a reflection of the underlying economic forces, primarily the pattern, the ownership, and the means of production. So these captains of industry with all this money would just use the government as somewhat of a committee to get what it was that they actually wanted. So the elites were these captains of industry. This is this Marxist theory. And again, just using the government to get what they want. All right, so I'm almost out of time on this video. We'll pick up with the next one, theory number 2, the power elite theory, right after this.